Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Song Park, professor at Korea University and executive director of the EU Center at Korea University. And I'm really very, very happy and pleased to have this event happen online. This event is a special lecture series of the Jang Mon-hae EU Center of Excellence of Korea University. And the first lecturer we have invited is Her Excellency Maria Castillo Fernandez, the EU ambassador. So as a matter of course, we had to invite her because she arrived last year and she has been very active in Korea as well as in other parts of Asia. I'd like to briefly introduce her to you. Ambassador Maria was positioned to Korea in the period 2005 to 2008. And then she went to Hong Kong and Macau to lead the delegation or the office, EU office in Hong Kong, which covered also Macau. And then she went back to Brussels, and she came back to Asia. And her last position before coming to Korea as ambassador was she was ambassador of the European Union in Malaysia in the period 2016 to 2020. So she directly came to Korea after serving ambassador to Malaysia in this period. We have met about 13, 14 years ago, and we have had many encounters, and we have been cooperating in a few projects as well. So I'm really very, very happy to invite her as a special lecturer, the first lecturer for this year. Before we start our discussion with the ambassador, Professor Jason Lee, Dean of DIS and GSIS, the kind of boss of this building, would like to give some welcoming address for ambassador. Please, Professor Lee. Your mic is...
Yes, I just turned on. Thank you, Professor Park. And the boss, well, I'm still wondering whether I am the boss of this building or the person doing a lot of the in charge of building management in this case. But before anything else, I'm very glad to have Her Excellency Ambassador Castillo Fernandez in this Jang Mon-hae special lecture. And thank you for accepting our invitation for this lecture. The topic today, the EU as a global actor, is very relevant, especially at this moment. It has been almost a decade since Korea signed the framework agreement with the European Union. And so we are entering into the next decade. And well, we have a strong ties in economy, trade, investment, as well as the political, the coordination. But also nowadays, a number of new issues are rising, and that need much closer coordination and cooperation between the two parties, such as dealing with the pandemic, well, would be one thing. We have a climate change agenda, and crisis management, well, need much closer attention. And of course, human rights issue is the one big task we have to handle together in the future. So I myself am very, very thrilled to listen to your insight about the Europe as a global actor. And I also asked my students who are studying the European affairs in my class and also in other classes to must attend this lecture. So once again, thank you very much. And I hope, well, our good friendship, good ties will evolve much further in the forthcoming years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Lee. So Ambassador Maria will talk about Europe, actually the European Union as a global geopolitical actor. So she will talk about 30 to 40 minutes so that we have some time remaining for Q&A. We have received the 3 questions already, and probably we could discuss these 3 questions before we open the floor to all the participants. So Maria, could you please start? It's your turn now.
Thank you very much, 안녕하세요, to Korea University, to all the students, to Dean Professor Lee Ji-soon, and to Professor Park Sung-hoon, very good friends of mine, and I'm very happy to be able to do the first lecture online to students at Korea University, which you managed to maintain the European studies into your curriculum, and that is very important. So I am speaking to specialists. I hope, and from the questions they send me, I know that they know very much what is Europe about, and I will try to give you perhaps today a different perspective. We are entering a time of a lot of challenges globally, and therefore what role do we have, what is Europe doing, and how the different tools that we have that Professor Lee has mentioned, our agreements, our relationship as partners, like-minded partners, how does it work in the different international contexts that we see today. And I will try a little bit also, because I have seen these 3 questions, to try to answer them a little bit through the presentation that you will see. I also include 3 videos that I hope that the students listening to them, they are very short, but they bring images of what I am saying to their mind. And I think through images, it's a very good way to understand a little bit what we, Europe, are doing in this side of the world, but also all over the world, to try to work as a global actor. Here. Let me start by a fundamental piece of how we understand Europe. And this is Europe as a peace project. We cannot understand what Europe is today and what the unique political and economic union Europe has become of 27 members if we don't understand that it is really not an economic project, it's not a political project, it's a peace project. And that is because it started, and you see in the photographs, through the ashes of the Second World War. That is how Europe started. That's the sense of what Europe is about. In the aftermath of the Second World War, we decided to put coal and steel, which are the key elements of a war, and the coal and steel produced by Germany and France, a little bit out of the hands of Germany and France, and give it to a high supranational authority. And that was mainly to avoid another war. That decision was taken. And then from then on, we decided, okay, this is working. Cannot we extend it to more economic cooperation? And then we had what is today the European Community, Economic Community in 1958, which came which is the foundations of the European Union that we see today. That was on the 9th of May. 6 countries, winners and losers. We had Belgium, Germany, France, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands together, deciding to work and put in some of the resources to a supranational organization, and that is unique in the world. That you know, nations don't want to leave their sovereignty and leave it to someone else, even to United Nations, or even if you look at ASEAN, they are not willing to give it to another authority. And that is what is unique in the European project that we see today. From steel and coal, we went to agriculture, fisheries, competition, single market, one single big market to all, and we then went to freedom of goods, of people, of capitals, single currency, and then coordination. And I see coordination in themes like education, border management, justice, health, and foreign policy and security as we are today. And through all that, a series of enlargements until the last one, 2013, with Croatia coming in, and today we are 27 with one country, as you know, that left us in January 2021, the United Kingdom. And with all this, it's very fundamental. This man, Jean Monnet, I consider him an inspiration, and he is, if any of the European students are in France for any exchange, go to see the Jean Monnet house at the outskirts in Paris. It's really worth going. He was an economist, a diplomat, a government advisor, but he was one of the fathers of European Union project of Europe. He said there is no peace in Europe if states rebuild on national sovereignties, and the countries in Europe are not strong individually. And he said that in 1950. So after the two wars, there was a group of economists and diplomats, government officials, who decided, okay, we cannot afford another war. We have to think, what do we want for our future? And he said there is no future for the people of Europe other than in union. And that's where Europe, you know, he was one of the drafters of the Schuman Declaration, which gives birth to the European Union. So this is very important to understand all of what I'm going to say after. Europe is not an economic project, it's a peace and a political project. And these are our values. So what do we stand for? That is something, a question that comes. And yes, we stand for human rights and democracy, universal values. Korea also stands for that. These are universal values that we all have adhere. But this is also the cornerstone of our foreign policy, but all our policies. And it is a key, a fundamental, at the heart of what Europe is and what Europeans do. And this is what we see perhaps in COVID times, where some of the different ways societies are dealing with COVID, well, for Europeans are very important, our data privacy, our freedoms, and therefore perhaps in times of big challenges like this one, we tend to react in a different way. Also important, global peace and security, tolerance, solidarity, justice, non-discrimination, sustainability. Solidarity, very important. Solidarity between ourselves, between the different countries. The ones that come later in the successive enlargements always bring a different, they are less developed, and the others have also to help and give funds to them so that they can develop and be more balanced, and economies are more equal. But so these are key important elements of what we are. Rule-based international order, rule of law, democracy, these are also key principles that we stand. And for trade, open, sustainable, and fair trade, the fairness is key on what we do and what we stand for. You all know all of this has given us in 2012 the Nobel Peace Prize awarded to the European Union for advancing the cause of peace, reconciliation, democracy, and human rights in Europe. That is, you know, a recognition of the character of a peace project that was at the very essence of what Europe is today. And of course, our fundamental rights, we have them in our own charter, in our treaties. The Treaty of Lisbon has it. It's also the European Charter of Fundamental Rights. And we see here the three heads of our different institutions, democratic institutions, the European Parliament, David Sassoli at the up of the image, the woman, first woman president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, and at her side, Charles Michel, the president of the European Council. Important for us, the logo of the European Union, unity in diversity. That's what we are. That is what gives us our richness. This is very important. We are diverse cultures. We don't want to have one culture. We are diverse cultures, but the unity and this is something that enriches all. You don't need to seek one European culture. It's diversity, which is important. And within that, I will have asked the students how many languages are in Europe. That is an example of our cultural diversity, 24 official European languages. And that's why in the Parliament we have the biggest interpretation service in the world. Perhaps the United Nations is bigger than us, but after the United Nations in New York and Geneva, it is the European Union. Let me just start with a small video of what Europe is today.
After 1945, across a continent ravaged by war and famine, Europe's people looked for a way to rebuild for the future. Displaced persons returned home or made new homes, as Europeans have for many centuries. A handful of European leaders decided that the best way to prevent war was to share the things which nations had been fighting for, and to build closer bonds of friendship and trust. The first step was the European Coal and Steel Community. A few years later, the signature of the Treaty of Rome led to the creation of the European Economic Community and laid the foundations for today's European Union. The Treaty of Rome paved the way for a number of common policies. A common market was created with the removal of borders and barriers for goods, people, capital and services. This allowed cross-border trade to flourish, making war between neighbours simply unthinkable and generating prosperity and opportunities for millions of European citizens, which they had not known before. Putting in place these four fundamental freedoms helped Europe's economies develop and led to the creation of the world's biggest trading bloc. The Common Agricultural Policy was also launched with the Rome Treaty, at a time when Europeans knew what being rationed and hungry meant. They knew how much food makes a difference between life and death, between good and poor health. Over the last 60 years, ensuring that Europe is self-sufficient and that we can secure our food and be sure of what we eat has been a core priority of the European Union. After the Second World War, Europeans wanted a strong social policy aimed at sheltering the weakest, and so the Rome Treaty established the European Social Fund. Today, over 1/3 of the EU budget is spent on economic and social cohesion. The European Union was founded on coal and steel. Today, the European Energy Union will ensure that Europe has secure, affordable, and climate-friendly energy. Wiser use of our resources and greater energy efficiency are key to fighting climate change and also to generating new jobs, growth, and investment in Europe. Over time, new challenges emerged in Europe, with technological progress, globalization, and several enlargements of the EU. This called for an extension of the fundamental freedoms into new domains. In May 2015, the Commission launched a strategy for creating a digital single market, providing people and companies with better personal protections online and creating the right conditions to maximize the potential of the digital economy. In 2016, the President of the European Commission, Jean-Claude Juncker, called for a European pillar of social rights in the euro area to address crucial social challenges, including poverty and income inequality. The Commission also created a European Solidarity Corps in 2016 to provide new opportunities for young people in Europe. Over its 60 years of existence, the Treaty of Rome has evolved with the European Union, and new treaties have been needed to keep pace with its growth and development. The history of the Union that has been formed under the guidance of this treaty is of an unprecedented nature in Europe. We are looking back on over 70 years of peace, which our continent has never known before. The journey has not always been smooth. It is a story of individuals and their lives. It is a story of institutions and their leaders, of men and women working tirelessly to overcome differences. It is the story of common values, common goals, common standards and common policies developed together, leading to the emergence of a stronger union between Europeans. In a globalized world, today more than ever, united, we can shape the world and secure our place in it.
Yeah, that was also done when we celebrate 60 years, but I think it's all binding, except for the pandemic, which is not there. It's all binding still, and hopes that summarize a bit what I have been saying. Let me come now to speak about Europe as a multilateral actor. We speak a lot about multilateralism all the time. I imagine also you and your classes have also looking at this. What does multilateralism mean? For me, it's mainly a set of rules, methods that international actors, being state companies, civil society, individuals, agree to follow and to implement. But it binds equally. It applies equally to all, and these are the rules are the same to all. It also means norms. It means strong institutions, international agreed rules and norms, and global cooperation. All these elements are part of what we think is multilateralism. Don't forget that a multilateral system has been a very important public good for all of us, including for European countries. Multilateralism has been the longest period of time where we have had global peace, stability, and human development. And what is happening now? Now we see a world which is multipolar, a world which is less multilateral, where we have more diverse and more fractured, more conflicts, more players, less consensus. A sort of multilateralism that is being eroded because of great power rivalry, because of competitive nationalism, because of populism. Several actors wanted to be hegemonic actors, problems that are more complex and more difficult to find universal solutions. We all have in mind what happened with Doha round, impossible to agree and to negotiate it among 140 states on these very complex trade issues. So yes, the multilateralism system is now being contested, from climate to arms control, to maritime security, to human rights and trade. Global cooperation has been weakened. International agreements have been abandoned, and also international law has been undermined and unselectively applied, I would say. But this is a bit against the essence of Europe, because Europe is multilateral by essence. So we are certainly trying to push the idea that we cannot resolve this in a multilateral framework. On the contrary, we have very complex issues coming now. In particular, we need to find a way to shape back multilateralism. And there's also part of what Europe does as a global partner. We have to build and strengthen partnerships, and that is what we are doing with Korea. We are trying to reach out to Korea so that we shoulder responsibilities together in different global challenges that we have. This is what is our strategic partnership about. We need also to consolidate what works. United Nations, the Paris Agreement. These are multilateral settings that work. We need to reform what no longer works. I'm referring here perhaps to WTO reform and other institutions. And we need to use multilateralism to extend the scope of new areas. For example, digital new technologies, i.e. these are areas where we need to find multilateral solutions to new openness and new domains that will also offer challenges to all. Today we have all in mind, and you have it in your minds, two overriding challenges: pandemic and climate. And this, all of them cry for multilateral solutions. And global cooperation. There is no other way we can solve these two key challenges except for a multilateral approach. And Europe is at that, I mean, pushing or moving the multilateral flag in the fight against climate, but also on the pandemic. And that's why, to the question of one of the students, you say how we can, are we geopolitical or not? In these two examples, I would say we are geopolitical, and we are trying to push the multilateral approach as the only solution to the challenges we are facing now. First, let me speak a little bit about them, because this is part of how we can approach in a multilateral way the big geopolitical issues that we have today. The role of vaccines is in the minds of all of you, I imagine. All the world needs to get vaccinated. We cannot are safe until everyone is safe. And we have to do it in a faster way, because otherwise we would not be able to start our recovery until everyone is vaccinated. And for that we have been, and Europe has been, you know, has chosen multilateralisms and cooperation as the key to what we are doing. We are working together with WHO, World Health Organization, a multilateral institution, to give them the authority, the resources, and the funds to be able to do their work to succeed in this pandemic or in another. We are also the biggest donor in the COVAX facility. I imagine many of the students have heard about COVAX. Korea will receive also COVAX vaccines here. But Europe is behind the setup of this facility. And certainly, you know, 2.2 billion euros have come in solidarity to all the low and middle income countries that need support on vaccination for free. Then we are also supporting countries' health systems. The pandemic has put into the limit many of our health systems, including in European countries, and we are putting, you know, all the development aid and all the support we were given to different third-party countries into health, because after the crisis we need to continue working on how to strengthen these health systems. Treatments, science and technology, a key area where we need to work more. This is one thing is the vaccine, the other thing is the treatment. The pandemic is here to stay probably, and we need to work on how do we look for treatments, and how do we mobilize research on this at a international level. We have been organizing this big global pledging event in last May, where they recruited more than 60 billion euros to respond to this disease through treatment and vaccines. And there South Korea has certainly provided a lot of support to this facility. And third and final, we are the number one and main exporter of COVID-related vaccines in the world. We produce, but we share. And that is the idea of solidarity that comes back that I mentioned as one of the key values that comes back again, and it's very important. So for vaccines, we certainly need global solutions. Sorry, we're trying to move the screen a bit. This is the idea of in an area which is health, like COVID pandemic. Health is not a competence of Europe. It's a competence of national countries. And it has also touched borders, because we are all closing ourselves. Korea has been closing, Europe has been closing. So the borders are also a national competence. And you see, as an example of how an area which is not European competence, but national one, it has been Europe also who has been leading not only the work inside the countries, but also outside Europe. And this is an example. Okay, there has been a lot of critics, how we have done it. You see critics every day of slow roll of vaccine, that we need more supplies. There is these are issues which we are all facing in every country. But if the countries, European countries, will have done this alone in isolation, we would not have what we have today. So it was like, at that moment, like even the public, the citizens and the countries looking at Europe for solidarity, to help with the recovery, but also to purchase vaccines, and also to create a fair distribution and solidarity of all the way you treat the pandemic and how we cure it. So this is a real example, to answer to the question of as a non-actor state, how would you assess the influence of the EU in geopolitics? Well, we can take the example of the vaccines, and yes, we do have had an influence which is growing, and we have been leading in this sector, but also in climate, which is what I'm going to speak about next. In climate, leading climate change, the Paris Agreement is a case of successful multilateralism. I think that the last big case that we have been able to manage, the last big agreement, we all agree, but now we have to implement it, and we are not doing enough. That is clear. You are all young students. I hope that you will be. We are living this what we are doing now will be affecting your lives very much, and I will imagine that like in Europe you will be taking the flag of green, the green flag, and pushing more climate friendly solutions in everything that you will be doing as individuals, as persons, but also in your professional lives. And you will remember what I am telling you today, because it is a big revolution that is coming in Europe. It has started. I have my children the same age as yours, as you are all there, and I know how much for them the climate, the fight climate change, and you know, environmentally friendly way of life and way of work and to produce is something that is key to what you will be doing. So climate is there to stay. We don't have a vaccine for climate. So certainly we know how much it's linked to the well-being of all of us. We have seen in the pandemic that greenhouse emissions globally have descended 10%. Only in 1 year of the pandemic, where everyone stayed at home and not go to the office. So certainly there is a lot to learn about that. We have recovery plans, Korea and Europe, same, the Green Deals, which are very important. This is about green and digital transitions and recovery plans. There we're working together, another example. And also the example of how Europe have been leading the fight against climate change, even when until January, we had a US administration who didn't believe in climate change and was just backing down from all those international commitments. And we have been there persistent, and with our climate ambitious goals, putting a goal every time higher and higher. Now we have for 2030, 40% of greenhouse gas emissions, 32% of renewable resources, and 32% of energy efficient. Now these are, and then we have the climate neutrality goal, which is for 2050, which Korea has also now committed to. So these are very ambitious goals. So now we have to put them into action. We have to put them into a global strategy, and that is the Green Deal about. It's a growth strategy, a holistic approach that looks to all sectors of the economy. So there is no one that can get out of this big green revolution, and also our societies at large. So we all have a role to play, from offshore wind, hydrogen, mobility, energy, renewables, to biodiversity, forest health, and nutrition. You know, we will be looking to see products in our markets that will be all sustainable and environmental friendly produce. Otherwise, we would not buy it as consumers. So this is a revolution that I think is coming in Korea and is very much in all our geopolitical discussions. A bit plans that, you know, when we speak about circular economy, this means the round. You produce, you manufacture, you consume, you use, but you recycle. So nothing is waste, everything is used, and that is how our societies and our productions will change the way we look at trade as well, and supply chains into this more circular way of looking. But this is also about a social dimension. We cannot leave anyone behind. It's a revolution that will hit us all, and therefore there are sectors that are going to be more hit because there are sectors that are dependent on energies which would not be able to use, and therefore we need to help them and provide assistance to those sectors that are more dependent on fossil fuels. A climate law which we are working now, which will put these ambitious goals into binding legislation. We will have to have everything we write or any law we do has to have a climate impact assessment. Sorry, there's the light. So you will need to look at everything that you do. Will have, and as professionals later, will have a climate assessment because it's important to see what is the effects on climate of whatever we produce, we do, and we buy. But very important how we can bring everyone's views into account. The public participation in all of this is very important. So those were two examples of how geopolitics and how Europe is leading with a multilateral approach our world. And we do it together, because if we don't act together, we are irrelevant. That is clear. So I think that is the answer to a growing influence in geopolitical, because if we don't do it together, we are irrelevant. Finally, Europe as a stronger security actor. Multilateral security. When we speak about geopolitics, sometimes you only think about security, but it's not only about security. It's much more broader. We are seeing a deterioration as well after, with the pandemic, of the security environment all over the world. More crises, more conflicts, also very close to Europe. Look at what's happening today in the border between Ukraine and Russia. To say a very example, what is happening on the Iran nuclear deal, what is happening with cyber attacks. So throughout the world, non-proliferation. You have it here next to your borders. So building peace and security with a multilateral approach is also the solution. And Europe is growing as well, is becoming a more stronger security actor. And I'm going to try to tell you why. Sorry, yeah. Last week, a clear example, this is General Claudio Graziano. He is the head, the chief of all the chiefs of staff of the military in each European country, 27 countries. So they all meet in Brussels in what we call the military committee, EU military committee, and he is the boss of that military committee. So he is the equivalent to your chief of staff here, Joint Chief of Staff, General Won. And he was here in Korea last week. So it was the first visit of the highest level military official. And he was, that was an example of how we also have, as Europe, military to military cooperation, security and defense as reaching out to our partners. And he said something that is very pertinent. There is no solution to the crisis without the military, and there is no military solution to the crisis. And I think there you will certainly agree that is the case. We need soft and hard power, and Europe has a sort of hard power. We don't have a fleet, but we have the fleet from EU countries putting together with EU flags, and that is, he is a Italian general with an EU flag, EU mask, I would say. but certainly that is what we are doing, and let me show you a little bit what we are doing. Okay, this is not working. No worries. I will put to the next one. Don't worry. I will pass it to the next one. Okay. Let me see if I can. This can help you. Okay, I had two videos to see, but they are not. It doesn't seem to be working. So I'll try to tell you what we are doing. I mean, this was a military training in Mali and Somalia. This is Europe troops working together with the Mali and Somalia troops, trying to train them. So that is done by European forces. When I say European forces, I am thinking about all the different operations that we have throughout the world. More than 17 military and civilian missions. We are in the Mediterranean with ships. Of course, they come from the different EU countries, but they are under European flag, and they are trying to look at the embargo in Libya. We have an embargo, United Nations embargo in Libya, while the ships are trying to see that this embargo is implemented. We have an operation in Atalanta in the coast of Somalia, where we had a lot of piracy. You remember some years ago, big ships that were taken by pirates. So we organized a big operation there with also EU vessels and now there is no piracy in that area. But it's not only because you have a military solution, you also have, you work on the ground, you work so that the people who are there don't become pirates. You need to work on societies, to develop them so that people don't decide that they gain more money taking a ship and then therefore they go and become pirates instead of being farmers. So you need to give them job opportunities and work also with the countries of origin of all these issues. We are working in military in Sahel and we are coordinating our presence in the Gulf of Guinea. That means we have 3 different ships, Italian, French and Spanish. And what we do is they are there with a military presence and they coordinate. The coordination is done at the European level. So all of this is part of what we think the new EU defense. We have come to the idea that alone we cannot do it and that we need to take the responsibility for defending ourselves and defending our values and our interests. And we have to do it together if we must and with others if we can. This idea of a strategic autonomy that comes also from the defense. But this is what Europe is geopolitically today. We need to take our interests and our values and defend it by ourselves because sometimes we cannot rely on others and we cannot do it individually as EU countries, we have to do it together. We have come to do a lot of projects together in the military front. There is the idea of an EU fighter. Why do we need to have 16 tanks and not do 1 European tank? And also because all this costs a lot of money. So we put all the money together and we work with 3 or 4 countries who are the leaders in one military capability and we try to develop. We have share what are the threats that we feel and also we cooperate with NATO. I mean, NATO is a pillar of our defense today, but if there is a situation, NATO is not only Europe. NATO, you have also European countries like Turkey and others, but and the US. So sometimes NATO doesn't want to intervene or doesn't want to do some certain things. So we complement what NATO does. A word, I know that many of you were interested in a word on EU Brexit or UK relations. I will not call it anymore Brexit, they already gone. These were the photo you see on your left is a photo I took in London on the 31st of January 2020. I was there visiting my 3 children, and which are all living in London, by the way. This was the last day before they left Europe. So that was on the 30th of January. And they had, this is in the City Hall, and they had the European flag. When I came back the next day, the European flag was not there. It was important to be there that day. By chance, I was there to see them, but it was important. It's a sad moment for us Europeans, of course, but this is a decision that we respect, and therefore, on the 1st of January 2021, Brexit took full effect, and this starts then a new chapter of our relations, a new chapter where we have 2 agreements, the withdrawal agreement, which secure an orderly Brexit with minimize the disruption for our business, for our citizens, for the public administrations, and also our international partners as well. And we have a text of a cooperation and trade agreement, which certainly serves as the basis of our long-standing relation and friendship with the UK, because it will be, one of our closest allies and strategic partner. But of course, it's not the same to be in than to be out. So certainly it left the EU single market, the customs, and all the European acquis, all the European legislation. UK will not longer be covered by the EU agreements. So it's not part of our partnership agreement, nor our FTA, nor our crisis management agreement. Of course, the free movement of persons has ended, goods and service. So there is a change. There are two separate markets, two distinct regulatory and legal spaces, and therefore that brings changes that we all are seeing. But UK is a key ally and a strategic partner, also an assertive competitor as well. And sometimes, and we are very closely working, for example, on climate. They are organizing the COP26, you know, this will be the moment where we are going to see if Paris is being delivered or not, the Paris Agreement, and that is organized between the European Union and the UK in London in November. So we're working very closely with them as well. But don't forget that even if we have one member that is gone, we still have a union of 27 countries, which form a single market of 450 million citizens and certainly more than 20 million businesses. And we are the largest trading bloc in the world, so and the largest development donor. Don't forget that, as we continue to be a key partner and the biggest foreign investor in Korea and fourth largest trading partner. So our figures have not changed because of that. Very important, this notion of a strategic autonomy. It's key for what Europe is today. As I said, Europe peace project is still alive. We haven't collapsed. You know, everyone tells us every time there is a crisis, oh, Europe is going to collapse. Well, not at all. I have been a European working in Europe for more than 30 years now, and I have seen a lot of crises and a lot of moments, of difficult moments, but we continue to survive. We continue to survive because it's very important that you know, we have come to the realization that alone we are not strong, alone we cannot make it, so we need to keep together. We are today at a difficult moment. As I said at the beginning, we have three crises, not one. We have a sanitary crisis, health as a public good in danger. The vaccine strategies, you know, fair distribution, cheaper prices, frustrations about the rollout, supply deliveries, export measures, but an international solidarity. This is the crisis we are now. But we also have a crisis, an economic crisis, and we need to sort it out with green and digital recoveries, with also solidarity, with rescue funds and package that all the countries are putting on the table. And also a geopolitical crisis. That is what we are seeing, and therefore for us it's very important to put foreign policy at the service of all the Europeans in this critical moment. We speak therefore of a strategic autonomy. What is this? Is, as I said before, the capacity to act autonomously when and where necessary, and with partners when possible. When it's not possible, then we act alone and together. That also is not only related to defense, it's also related to economic interdependence, which is becoming politically more conflictual. Soft power is becoming an instrument of hard power. Science, technology, trade, data, investments are all becoming sources and instruments of force in international politics. Don't forget that. Investment and finance. We are, as Europeans, trying to look more on the international role of the euro in this part of this strategic autonomy's position. Foreign direct screenings, you will see that, more reinforced trade instruments, and better screening also of subsidized investments. On health, we are, you know, we have seen that mask, vaccines and antibiotics can become a strategic products and goods, And if they are simply produced in a very small number of countries, and if those countries become strategic rivals, what happened to our masks and to our vaccines? And that is what we are seeing today. Also, rare materials, raw materials, very important for key digital technology advance of many of our countries, also for Korea. We have created a European Raw Material Alliance. I want to mention it because it's important that we have put together companies, business associations, governments throughout the world to secure at least 30 critical inputs that are very important for our domestic production, for recycling, for materials like battery cells, renewables, defense, aerospace. So if we don't secure that those critical inputs in the supply chain will be there, then it will certainly hamper, our development in all these sectors. And this is something that you will see more and more coming, more diversification of supply chains, bringing supply chains also closer to our countries. And data is very important. Industrial data and business to business is going to be one of the key issues that we are all going to look in the future. So very important key assets that we have to look at it in a more way of more strategic autonomy. Trade, also very important. We are looking now at trade as a vehicle of growth. It will help. It has helped create 35 million jobs in the EU, and 60 million of those are on foreign investment. So foreign investment is very, very important to every country, the same to Korea. We are looking to build an alliance. We need to, as I said, look for more sustainable and fair globalization as we look at reforming WTO, supporting trade as a means to support our economic recovery, especially important for Korea, which is an export-driven country as well. And being more assertive, more defending our interests and reinforcing our rights. That means FTA agreements, we need to reinforce them to the full. We have to look at tools again, unfair trade practices like anti-subsidies or anti-coercion. And we have to look to have a level playing field if we want to work together towards open trade and fair trade. So that is certainly very, very important. Let me finish. You all know who is Josep Borrell, the High Representative Vice President. That is the title of a European Foreign Minister. And he is really someone who is pushing this concept in his capacity very much. A strategic autonomy is a process, a long-term one, of course, intended to ensure Europeans increasingly take charge of themselves. That's what that is Europe geopolitical today. We take in charge of ourselves, defend our interests and our values in this world today with so many challenges, a world that would like us to rely on ourselves to guarantee our future. EU is becoming therefore more geopolitical, to answer the question of the students. EU is a project that is becoming an increasingly more secure. The young generation, your generation, are more pro-Europeans than ever. Because they have been part of those exchange programs. Erasmus is part of what European students like you are doing. 1 year they go to another country in an exchange program, and therefore they interact with another culture, another students, same age from different European nations, and that creates a lot of links and bonds that now you, of course, you continue with them because you have all this digital and social media that links all of you and bonds all of you, and you realize you have the same concerns and the same issues, even if you come from Spain, from the UK, from Paris, from Latvia, from Czech Republic, you all have the same concerns. And therefore, in a world where we see China and Russia looking more threatening, where we have US that we could rely or not on them, EU has to stick together. And that is key. That is the balance between, when I started to say in the coal and steel, the nations left out something to the supranational. Well, we have this balance between national and supranational, which is very important, but makes Europe what it is today, and the unique institution and the unique union that we are today because of those elements. This is a little bit all what I wanted to say. Thank you. And this is a last photo of what we are doing here in Korea. This is certainly our summit meetings with Korea. One before COVID, and the other one after COVID, or in the middle of COVID, where we are all like us online as well. Our leaders are also online. And that means that the necessity of building alliance and nurturing the alliance we have. The same as, you know, we keep the links between myself and Professor Lee and Professor Park, which we have nurtured throughout the years. We need to do that nurturing of links between nations is very, very important. It's part of what, how through people-to-people contacts and through working closely with like-minded partners that have the same values as we have, the same concerns, we can work together in a multilateral setting to be able to address global challenges.
Thank you, Ambassador Maria.
Thank you.
Probably we can have some Q&A session for about 15 minutes. We received 3 questions beforehand, but I think the persons who put the questions are not here. Alice, are you there? Prince Philip? So if you are not there, then let's give the opportunity to Kim Min-ji to ask some questions. Kim Min-ji, can you turn on your video and then have some questions to Ambassador?
Yes. Hi, my name is Min-ji Kim. I'm an alumni of this KUGSIS, and thank you for your lecture today. And my question is about policy coordination issue. I was wondering, when the strategy of the EAS is inconsistent with each member state's foreign policy, whether the EEAS felt any necessity to harmonize those differences, or whether it has any authority to manage those differences. Thank you.
Thank you, Minji. Well, you know, we are celebrating this year the 10 years of the EAS, the European External Action Service, which is the foreign policy service of the European Union. I was there when we created, I was there before and after, and for me, someone who before was part of the European Commission, and then suddenly we could create this European external service or foreign ministry was very important. That is a big step because foreign policy and security is still something that is coordinated between countries to bring one message with several voices. You can see here in Korea, for example, how I speak on behalf of Europe, but also you have the ambassadors of EU countries here in Korea also speaking with the same message. We try to put the same message, and that creates, you know, more strength. It's not that I have only to speak; we have all of us to speak. So this is an ongoing process where there is much of it based on coordination, on trying to find a consensus on key messages, on key responses to foreign policy issues. Before, perhaps those issues were more. It was more slow. We could take decisions more slowly because we really need to bring everyone on board. But that is a little bit changing. We sometimes, you know, push foreign policy a bit through some countries leading or some countries taking a voice on one issue because they have more historical links or concerns or interest, and therefore we try to take a minimal denominator but push, and they can speak in the name of the EU. Look at what is happening in the UN Security Council. We are not there, of course, but you have 3 countries which are permanent members. So what they do is there is a very big coordination beforehand with all the EU countries, and that coordination is certainly led by the ES, by the embassy in the UN. And that coordination means that when they speak in the Security Council, mostly they speak on behalf of all of us, because the positions are coordinated beforehand. And so you have a lot of, it's one of our delegations or embassies or missions that are most active, because they need to cover a lot and they need to ensure that coordination is done. Another example is the Iran deal that we know they are now discussing in Vienna. And therefore, there you see the EU +3, which means France, Germany, and the UK, which was when we started the Iran deal, was part of the EU, plus European Union. And but it's the European Union, it's the ES. It's my Deputy Secretary General, Enrique Mora, who is leading the negotiations. And it was Federica Mogherini at the time, the High Representative, where she was leading the negotiations and trying to sharing the Joint Committee under the ECPOA and others. So you see, there is a change and it's a process, but you see more and more examples of how in the ES, we are the ones who are trying to do this enormous efforts of coordinating foreign policy and defense. That's why you saw the general coming here this week. But certainly we do this also in Korea. My office here coordinates the work of the EU missions of member states here, the embassies. We meet every month, but there is meetings every week at political, trade, consular level, where all these positions and concerns, and we act as one. When there is an issue, we can come together and come to the Korean authorities with one message or one position.
Okay, thank you. So let's open the floor to all the participants. Is there any body who has some question to the ambassador? Please, Karina.
Yes, hello. Hello, Ms. Fernandez, first of all, and thank you for your presentation. Actually, I'm writing my thesis right now on EU strategic partnerships in Asia. And I have a question about the EU. On the one hand, they want to gain more influence as a geopolitical international actor, and also it wants to spread or promote its liberal values. But I have found in some cases the partners don't always want to be influenced in that way by the EU. They kind of find their sovereignty very important, and that creates some conflicts. And I wanted to know if you think then how that kind of can be reconciled, if you think it would be better to be more pragmatic and try to make more cooperation and make more kind of compromises on the values, or if it is better to defend the liberal values, and then if cooperation is less possible, then it cannot be done, kind of. I find that a bit, catch-22. So what do you think about this?
Well, that's a very interesting study that you're doing, Karina. We have, I think, 5 in Asia. You have India, Japan, Korea, China, and now ASEAN as a strategic partners of the EU. And of course, for us, I think it's very difficult to say to compromise on values. I would say we do defend our values. And that's what happened with China 2 weeks ago, when we had the use of Russia and here also on DPRK, where we had the use of the global sanctions human rights regime, put into operation, and a series of list of sanctions to some of these countries. But not only that was in Asia, we also had, Sudan, you had Ethiopia, and others, now Iran. So this is important. I think we have to, our values, our interests, especially our values, are fundamental and universal values. it's much more difficult to compromise on those. So we should defend those values, and that's what we are doing. Sometimes that has repercussions and risks with our strategic partners. It's clear then, when we speak with Korea and we want to that they come also with us in issues of human rights in Myanmar, there's no difficulty. They do it. When we speak about human rights in China, then it's more difficult because they do a different balance here. So yes, but we have a strong relation with China, but we also come out on issues of Xinjiang or Hong Kong or others. So I think that could with partners, we always it's important that dialogue is there, that communication, that we have respect from each other, and that we certainly can talk and discuss our difference also together.
Thank you.
So let us have another question. If you have any question, please raise. It is a quite a rare opportunity that the ambassador comes to this kind of special lecture. Of course, it is not the last time she will come to us. As soon as the COVID pandemic situation is normalized, she would come to the campus, right? She would love to come to campus because our campus is lovely and very beautiful. She knows that.
Looking forward to come back.
Yeah. Hans Ligi, you have raised your hands? No?
Sir, not really.
Oh, okay. So I could not see rightly. Yes, Sohee has one question.
Hello, Ambassador. My name is Sohee, and I'm a project assistant at the Youth Center at KU. So thank you for the valuable lesson today. So I have a question regarding the European strategic autonomy. So I wonder what is the common opinion about this concept, because there are diverse responses regarding this concept. Like, for example, still some countries have more dependence on the US. And on the other hand, like other countries argue, other countries want to get a autonomy in their policy, including the economic, politics, and defense. So I would like to ask your own opinion about this concept of the European strategic autonomy. Thank you.
Thank you. I think this concept is growing. It's a concept that I think all European countries adhere to. You have it in 2016 already in the EU defense strategy document. If you go to that document, you will find it there. And that is a document agreed by all the EU countries at that time. So it's not a concept, something new that comes now from the blue. Now we speak about strategic autonomy to widen into other sectors like economy and finance. When we are coming with the decision on a screening of investments, this is a decision taken at European level. So all the 27 countries adhere to it. And this means also, that when there is big investments in Europe, in a country, they have to inform the others, inform the European Commission, so that we know that this is happening, and there is a sort of monitoring of the investment, so that it doesn't touch strategic issues of Europe that comes from many investments that have been done, without a serious screening. Are they done through subsidies by certain governments, and therefore then they are not, they are not playing at the same level in our own single market. So that is very important. There's new legislation in preparation on anti-subsidies and anti-coercion measures done by other countries. So all of this will be adopted at 27. So you will see the concept of strategic autonomy coming slowly into different areas, but it's a concept that I would say is generally accepted. One thing is that a country has closer links to one of the other big powers. It can be Russia, it can be the US, but that doesn't preclude that when we have to take decisions, we take it in our interest, defending our interests as 27.
So thank you. I think time is up now, Ambassador Maria. Thank you very much for your readiness to talk with our students. As I told, please come to the campus as soon as the situation is normalized. And there are lots of students who would like to meet you, right? So thank you very much. And let's seek another opportunity to invite you to the campus. And also, I think to the students, thank you very much for attending this event. And Ambassador Maria has earned a lot applause from our side, right? So let's give her big applause.
Thank you.